It's funny how life can break you with the things you thought you'd never have. And it's cruel how it throws you into the arms of someone who doesn't want to catch you. The night I signed that contract, my hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the pen. Across the glass table sat Alexander Reed, me boss, my nightmare, and, God help me, the man who would change everything I thought I knew about myself. His dark eyes scanned the pages without hesitation, like he was negotiating a business deal, not chaining two lives together. For him, this wasn't marriage. It was control. For me, it was survival. I had no choice. My brother's hospital bills were drowning us, and Alexander knew it. He offered me a lifeline, but it was wrapped in iron chains. 1 year. 1 year as his husband, on paper, to silence his board members and keep his empire safe from scandal. After that, he'd release me. No love, no promises, just signatures and silence. But what Alexander didn't understand was that I wasn't built for silence. The first days were unbearable. He was cold, distant, his every word sharpened to a blade. You will stay out of my way. Attend the events when I say. Speak when I ask. Nothing more. His rules were a fortress, and I was the unwelcome guest trapped inside. Yet beneath that icy armor, there were cracks, tiny, fragile glimpses of the man he tried so desperately to bury. Like the night I found him alone on the balcony, drink in hand, staring at the city lights as though they could answer a question he was too afraid to ask. He didn't hear me at first. His face, usually carved in stone, was soft, almost aching, and something inside me shifted. He wasn't untouchable. He was breakable. I should have walked away, stayed in my lane, remembered why I was there. But instead, I stepped closer. And when he finally turned to look at me, the air between us felt like fire trapped in glass, dangerous, beautiful, impossible to ignore. Weeks turned into months, and somewhere between staged smiles for the cameras and whispered arguments behind closed doors, the lines blurred. His hand brushing mine during a charity gala, the way his gaze lingered a second too long, the rare sound of his laughter. It wasn't part of the contract. None of it was. I began to crave it. Him. And that terrified me more than anything, because love wasn't written in the deal. And Alexander Reed didn't do love. The city of New York was alive that autumn, buzzing with possibility, while my world shrank into stolen glances and aching silences. Every day was a battle between what I was supposed to feel and what my heart insisted on betraying me with. He made it impossible not to notice him. His presence filled every room, commanding, suffocating, magnetic. I told myself it was just proximity, a trick of the heart. But then came the night everything cracked open. We had argued, God, we argued so often. That night it was over something stupid, an event I had to attend, a smile I didn't deliver properly. His words cut deep, sharper than usual, and I snapped. Do you even hear yourself? You think this is living? You think pushing everyone away makes you strong? My voice shook, but I didn't care. You're not untouchable, Alexander. You're just lonely. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. He didn't yell back. He didn't throw me out. He just stared at me, eyes blazing with something I'd never seen before. And then, slowly, like gravity itself was pulling him, he stepped closer. My breath caught as his hand brushed against my cheek, tentative, almost trembling. For a man who ruled empires, he suddenly looked so fragile. I should have pulled away. Instead, I leaned in. The kiss was nothing like I expected. It wasn't cold or calculated. It was desperate, hungry, like a dam breaking after years of silence. And in that moment, every wall he built came crashing down, and I was falling with him. But love with Alexander Reed was never going to be simple. The world was watching us, waiting for cracks in the perfect image. The board whispered, the media hunted, and his enemies circled like sharks. Our secret, our truth was dangerous. And the more I loved him, the more I realized the contract wasn't the real prison. Fear was. Still, I couldn't stop. Every night, when the city outside roared with life, I found myself in his arms, safe and burning all at once. And though he never said the words, I saw it in the way he touched me, the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Alexander Reed didn't do love. But maybe, just maybe, he was learning. That was the beginning. And beginnings are always the most dangerous part. The months that followed were a storm I didn't think I could survive. What started as a contract ink on paper, rules in black and white, had turned into something neither of us could control. And that terrified Alexander more than it terrified me. He pulled away after that kiss. Not right away, not in the moment, no, in the moment he gave himself to me fully, like a drowning man gasping for air. But afterward, the walls slammed back up. He became sharper, colder, crueler in his silence. It was as if loving me was a crime, and he was the jailer of his own heart. The tabloids didn't make things easier. Whispers of his new husband swirled, pictures of us standing too close, smiles that looked too real to be staged. His empire was at risk, his reputation questioned, and I was painted as the gold digger who caught a billionaire in his net. I should have been furious. Instead, I was heartbroken, because the only thing worse than being hated by the world was being shut out by the man who had started to mean everything to me. The breaking point came on a night heavy with rain. I was pacing our penthouse, clutching my phone, while Alexander sat at his desk, drowning in silence. "They're tearing me apart out there," I finally snapped, shoving the headlines toward him. "Do you even care what this is doing to me?" His eyes lifted, cold and unreadable. "You knew what you signed up for." The words sliced deeper than he could ever imagine. My voice cracked, anger spilling into despair. "I didn't sign up to be invisible to the one person who should see me." He froze, and for the first time, I saw fear in his face, not fear of me, but fear of himself. "I can't," he whispered, so quiet it was almost lost beneath the storm outside. "I can't give you what you want." "Then give me the truth," I shot back. "Stop hiding behind this contract. Stop hiding behind that mask. Because I'd rather walk away than keep pretending none of this means anything." The silence between us was suffocating. And when he didn't answer, when he let me storm out into the rain, I thought it was over. I spent 2 weeks away from him. 2 weeks of emptiness, of waking up without his shadow next to mine, of telling myself that freedom was what I wanted. But freedom without him felt like a hollow victory. Then came the night he showed up at my brother's hospital room. I didn't even hear him come. I only looked up to find him standing in the doorway, drenched from the rain, eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. My brother was asleep, machines humming softly, and for a moment, it was just the two of us in that quiet, fragile space. "I'm sorry," Alexander said, voice breaking on the words. He stepped closer, his hands shaking as if even speaking them was unbearable. "You were right. I thought I could control this, control us. But I can't. I don't want to anymore." I stared, unsure if I should believe him, unsure if I could survive another fracture. But then he looked at me, and all the armor he'd carried for years was gone. He wasn't the cold boss, the untouchable CEO. He was just a man, broken, terrified, but reaching out. "I love you," he whispered, "and I hate myself for taking this long to say it." Those words healed and shattered me all at once. I wanted to scream, to kiss him, to demand why it took losing me to make him admit it. But instead, I just stepped into his arms, feeling his chest tremble against mine. The contract was no longer chains. It was ashes, burned away by something far stronger. The road wasn't easy after that. Love doesn't erase wounds overnight. Alexander had to learn how to trust, how to let me in past the walls he'd built his whole life. And I had to learn patience, to stand by him as he stumbled, as he fought against every instinct that told him vulnerability was weakness. But we did it, together. At the company gala months later, when the world was watching, he didn't just hold my hand for show. He laced his fingers through mine, firm and unapologetic, eyes daring anyone to question it. For the first time, I wasn't his contract husband. I was his partner, his equal, his love. The whispers didn't stop, but they didn't matter anymore. Because when he looked at me, when his lips brushed mine beneath the flash of cameras, I knew this wasn't survival anymore. It was life. Real, messy, beautiful life. The night we tore up the contract, sitting cross-legged on the floor of his office with scraps of paper scattered like snow. He laughed an unguarded, boyish laugh I'd never heard before. "Guess I don't need this anymore," he said, pulling me into his lap. "No," I whispered, pressing my forehead to his. "You never did." And for the first time since that trembling night when I signed my name, I realized the truth. I hadn't been forced into anything. I'd been led here through pain, through fear, through fire for a reason. Not to save him, not to be saved, but to find the love neither of us thought we deserved. Love doesn't always come the way we imagine. Sometimes it begins as a cage, cold and merciless. Sometimes it feels like the end of freedom, the end of choice. But if you're lucky, if you're brave enough, it transforms. And in its transformation, it sets you free. That night, as I fell asleep in his arms, Alexander whispered it again. Words that had once been impossible for him. "I love you." And this time, I didn't doubt a single thing. Because finally, I was exactly where I was meant to be. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.